So now, finally, let's talk about programming volume. Each training block should start with your MEV for each muscle, which again is going to be more for bigger muscles and less for smaller muscles. And then for most major muscle groups, you should be averaging about one additional set every week or two, okay, or however much you can do for a nice, slow, steady, progressive overload. And you want to make sure you have started low enough, all right, somewhere around your maintenance volume, or at least, between your maintenance volume and minimum effective volume, okay, not over your MEV. And this is because the lower you start, the higher you can go, because of the fact that the slower and steadier your progressive overload, the more you can do of it, because the less taxing it is to your system and the less fatigue you're going to be accumulating. So you want to be doing that progressive overload slowly and steadily, and that's how you're going to see massive growth. And you should progress until you get to your MAV and start peaking. And then the next week, go just beyond that by training until past failure and getting into your MRV. And this entire process should take between 1 and 3 months, or otherwise known as one mesocycle. And then at the end of that cycle, you're going to take a rest week doing maintenance volume, which is a very low volume, doing mostly rest and recovery type of activities. And then after that, you're going to do it all again. But next time, you're going to be starting with your MEV being one more set for most major compound movements. So every time you do a cycle, you start the process with one more set. All right, and ideally, you will also be finishing it with one more set than you did last time. So what will happen is cycle after cycle over the course of your training year, your minimum effective volume, maximum adaptive volume, and maximum recoverable volume will all be increasing steadily. However, what will happen is towards the end of your training year, there will get to be a point to where you have increased what you thought was your MEV too much, and you've actually gone beyond your MEV. But then your maximum recoverable volume will actually start to drop due to cumulative fatigue. So the space between your minimum effective volume and maximum recoverable volume will start to close a little. All right, so just because you are always starting your MEV with one more set doesn't mean that you are going to peak higher with one additional set. You might have one cycle that's really epic, where you push yourself really far and your MRV is really high, but then the next cycle you start over with even more MEV. You have another epic cycle of massive growth planned, but then you won't make it through most of that cycle because, like halfway through or so, you'll have reached your MRV before you even thought you were going to. All right, so you'll start to get too fatigued and lose strength, way before your cycle is supposed to be done, and that is how you know that your MRV is getting lower because you've developed too much cumulative fatigue. Okay, so that's when you want to then deload again, but actually do more rest than just one deload week. So then after an extended active rest period, you're gonna want to start progressive overload again, but way lower than before. All right, and this should really be the start of a new training year where you start with a very low volume, a volume that you would have used to consider to be too low. Now, after learning all of that, if you are still questioning if you really need to push yourself to your MRV, the answer is no, you don't really need to. Okay, if you're doing a mass gaining phase of volume accumulation, then you might want to, if you are really that serious about training and are trying to become, a hardcore athlete, maybe a professional, or, are just really serious about it. But if you're not into training that much harder just to get a little more gains, then don't do it, right? It's safer to just stop at your MAV when you peak and cycle back and continue getting good and better gains. All right, you don't need to keep pushing yourself so much harder just to get this much more gains. Okay, especially if you're not concerned about increasing your work capacity. And you should only be pushing yourself as far as you are comfortable and training as hard as you really want and need to for whatever purposes you are training. Okay, so if you don't need to be training that hard, then, maybe you shouldn't. It's really going to be up to you though, in your own personal preference. And then again, just remember that each muscle has its own MV, MEV, MAV, and MRV, and you're going to be learning about all of that in class number 5, 2 classes from now, so you can look forward to that. And the last thing I want to say is that this progressive overload of volume should also coincide with how hard you are training or how much effort you are exerting in what is called your RPE, or rate of perceived exertion. And that is what you are going to learn about in the next class. All right, and that being said, this actually concludes this class on volume landmarks and the growth curve that occurs with progressive overload with them. And I hope that you enjoyed this visual representation and will burn that into your brain. You can look very forward to the next class, in which I'm going to be teaching you how to train more hardcore by teaching you all about effort, RPE, RIR, failure, and intensity techniques. I hope you found this class helpful. Now, make sure to put what information you learned into practice right away before you forget, okay? That way it can actually go to work for you, because speed of implementation is one of the keys to success. If you have any questions or need any help, be sure to let me know either in the comments below or by the email address that is in the video description below. And if you are passionate about fitness but don't have time to do all of your own programming yourself and would like to have an expert programmer like me create and manage all of your fitness routines and planning for you, who can systematize your training so that you can reach your goals as fast as possible, be sure to inquire about my online personal training and fitness programming services. No matter what your schedule, budget, or goals, I can formulate the exact right program for you that will expedite your progress and growth and get you the body you want sooner rather than later, okay? And without ever spinning your wheels in the mud or hitting a plateau. And if you liked anything that I said in this video, be sure to hit that like button and the subscribe button and notification bell too, so that you can get all of my other videos that are like this one. And just remember that these videos are actually part of a course that is laid out in a linear fashion. So make sure you have seen all of the videos before this one that you need to see, and that you are subscribed and will continue to watch the videos that you watch on this channel in the order that they are presented to you.